Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing swell, Bob. How are you? Ooh, I'm getting. I'm getting echo.
Well, I'm not getting echo. You don't sound it great. You don't sound echoey here to me. Let me
Oh,
check
okay.
my setting. I'm
I
good.
am doomed to hear my own voice.
All right, let me see. Oh, you know what? Let me check. Let me sure I got it. I'm good. Everybody, let's pay attention. Oh, you know what? Hang on. I think maybe that might have helped. How's it any better now?
Yes, a little bit, not much,
Okay.
not
Well,
much.
we're gonna go. We'll make through it. Let me check your settings. I'm adjusting your volume. You're good. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But everybody, hey, welcome. It's Tuesday, and more importantly than Tuesday, today is Mike's birthday. Happy birthday, Mike! Happy birthday, Mike!
Thank you very much.
Um,
This sort of thing happens every year, so I'm kind of used to it.
it does. But it's happened now. Um, for many years. What's special about this year?
Absolutely nothing.
Oh well,
Um,
the
uh,
good news is,
we had an amusing birthday dinner.
mm,
Uh, Adrian and I make dinner
mhm.
or provide dinner at least on our respective birthdays. Adrian being my daughter, and she's also captain of this pool team,
Yes,
which plays pool on Tuesday night. So that presented a problem. So I
sure.
suggested let's have that massive meal that you're going to be making at midnight on August 4th.
Oh well, there you go.
So that's exactly what we did because we are exactly that weird. Keep in mind that neither of us really go to bed before 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's not that weird on our time. Boy, I keep on hearing myself, so I'm
I'm
off. I
sorry.
apologize. I apologize. I may do something about it. Let's see. Uh, she made a phenomenal meal as she always does. I mean, she's a brilliant cook. Um, Absolutely brilliant. She made sautéed onions, which is really hard and takes a lot of time, particularly at midnight. And we had petite filet mignons that were small because they're petite, but they were also about 8 inches thick, so I could throw them at somebody. And but I wouldn't because I want to eat that. Wonderful seasoned crust. Ah, I make myself hungry. Fried potatoes, just perfectly done. It was an amazing feast, and the funny thing is, thank you, Sherry. I appreciate it. Uh, it ushered in a slew of questions and birthday greetings and stuff from folks online. Martha Thomas has sent me a beautiful little note through Facebook.
I saw that.
Um, yeah, that was really sweet. That was really sweet, and
And then I went
it
and
brought some.
stalked your Facebook page and saw all of the hundreds of messages, and they're all wonderful.
I haven't seen it yet. I don't do that on my birthday. I look at it the day after because I don't have time. I got to do this show.
Well, that's fine. The echo's gone, Mike.
Yes, it is. What'd you do?
It was me somehow. I switched to my headphones, so apparently something was going on with that. So we're good. Um,
I love
so
how our answer to all computer related broadcast questions is I don't know. I pressed a button. I don't know.
it's
That's the
fine.
answer. It's been
We're good.
true forever.
We will figure out this problem. And so now the good part is that our the quality of our content will be echo free. Let's we're going to talk about your birthday. Every once in a while we'll just wish a happy birthday, and that's how it's going to go tonight. So But in the meantime, there's stuff to talk about. First of all,
Yes.
we have a guest that I have been looking forward to talking to for quite some time. We have negotiated their appearance here for probably about 3 or 4 months, and today is the day, so I'm super excited for it. But after today, not tomorrow, but the next day, Sherry and I will be on our way up your way to Connecticut, and we are going to be at Terrificon, great convention that happens in Connecticut this weekend. There's going to be so many different people, whether they're comic actors or comic creators or actors or voice actors, and lots of vendors. It's a great place to go if you feel like getting to the middle of nowhere and being stuck inside of a casino with a convention. There's none better. I know that doesn't sound enticing to everybody. I'm telling you, it's a great convention. It's just there. However, despite that but in addition to us being at Terrificon, we are going to Sherry and I will be working and volunteering for Hero Initiative this weekend, as we normally do when we go to Terrificon. And I want to take a moment to talk about how important Hero Initiative is to this community. That it is an organization out there that excuse me, that is raising money and distributing that money to creators in need, and people who have financial or health issues in this industry that does not provide for its content creators, to use a modern word.
Yes, that's true. Hero Initiative is a vital force, and it has come to the aid of a great many of my friends and co-workers, and Bob could say the same thing. I can't begin to tell you how incredibly important this is. It's not just that, the comics industry is always treated the top of the comics industry has always treated their performers, and that's what we are, their performers, with long-term dignity and respect, as in health insurance, or even some sort of combined scheme to provide health insurance. No, that barely happens and rarely happens. And it doesn't matter, because health insurance usually is woefully inadequate to cover anything serious. So all those creators of stories that you have loved all of your life, at the very beginning of your life, well, they, like me today, are really old. And what happens when you get really old is your body starts saying, fuck you. Actually, your body starts screaming, fuck you, to you. And Hero Initiative will help that bank balance pay for your medical needs a little bit, or your housing needs, if that's where the problem is. Good people. Although I happen to know for a fact that Bob and Sherry are really just in it to hang out with Walt and Wheezy Simonson.
Well, Mike's going to be there too. The other Mike. See, he's on the page.
I see Mr. Corral. Please say hello to him for me.
I will.
Tell him he owes me money. He doesn't, but
he might.
It doesn't matter. He might. Yeah, I think he might. Well, yeah, sure. And try not to gamble away the proceeds.
Well, we won't, but we will take a little bit of. It is a casino, and as Sherry has mentioned, at this casino there is a Wonder Woman slot machine, and
shit.
It is
Take pictures.
I will.
I want to see photos.
It is our annual, hunt to find out where they've moved it to. And we made money off of it last year. Last year we did the slots a couple of bucks, and we ended up making a little money, but you never like this. Disclaimer: we do not support gambling. It is the easy way to lose your money. So if you have money that you want to spend for entertainment, then that's how we do it.
Short of doing cocaine, it's probably the easiest way to spend money. And cocaine even has its limits. You're going to stop one way or another sooner or later.
Yeah, well,
gambling can last forever.
Well, until you run out of money.
No, oddly enough, you can still,
that's true.
You can still bet.
That's true.
You can still bet.
That is true too. I forgot. So that's what's going on this weekend. Let's talk about some what is it? Film and TV news. And film and TV news of the week is there was a comic book movie released this past weekend. I saw it. Spider-Man Brand New Day was released. It made over the weekend globally $927 million. I thoroughly enjoyed the film. I thought that it was a good Spider-Man movie. It definitely moved the narrative story of the MCU forward. I have thoughts about that, and I'll wait probably a few weeks before we talk about what that is. But what I wanted to talk about mostly is that a month ago, another superhero movie came out, and all we heard was it did poorly because of superhero fatigue. Oh, people don't want to see superhero movies anymore. And the big difference between the superhero movie that came out a month ago with a character that was created in the 50s versus a character that was created in the 60s is that one was female and this one is male, and it's all misogyny.
Good point. Supergirl was created like 3-4 years, only 3-4 years before Spider-Man.
Fair enough.
That's a very good point. But superheroes are fine. Superheroines are really drive some people crazy. We call those people assholes.
Right.
And incels, many that, which is a worse word than asshole, because look it up. And they are. Now, it's possible that people could say, well, no, people just didn't like the movie, you schmuck. To which I would respond, no, they didn't check the movie. They didn't see the movie.
That's the point. The point is nobody saw the movie.
Right. Exactly. If it had been on some, like HBO or HBO, what do they call it? Max.
It is now.
I want to call it HBO Mini. They then maybe I would take that criticism. No, it's a terrible movie. It deserved to fail. First of all, bullshit. Second of all, it will not have wound up costing Warner Brothers money. They're not going to lose money on Supergirl. They are losing money on Supergirl right now, so they're losing money on the interest on their loans. That's all.
Yeah.
You add everything up, including the streaming fees, including home video, including all the merchandising and licensing. And let me say that again, because it does count for two: merchandising and licensing.
Mm-hmm.
These are really, really good. That at the end of the day, it will have broken even at the very least. Now, you don't go into business to break even. You go into business to make profit. I get that. But superhero movies are a lifestyle.
Sure.
It's like Westerns used to be, war movies used to be, rom-coms for some reason still are. They all have the same plot. So don't tell me superhero movies are boring.
And I mean, I went to the theater to see both of them, and I am not a person who goes to the theater very often. Just don't have the time and whatever. But I wanted to make a point about these two movies, and I went to see them both, and I think that My issue is that neither of them are bad films. Neither of them are the best films ever. I think that they're fairly similar in terms of. I mean, there's definitely much more narrative stuff that comes through with with the Spider-Man movie, but I think that it is. I think that they're both good movies, and so the only thing is that the word of Supergirl was it's no good, it's not worth it. There's she's for whatever reason, whatever words were said to cause people to not go. It was that it was review bombed. Uh, One of the things, I just I really liked Spider-Man. I had a great time. I felt like, and this is the one thing I said earlier, that this is the first time that Tom Holland has felt to me like my Spider-Man or Spider-Man. Like before, a lot of them were, he was younger, and I liked that. I liked the fact that he was, it was good for a younger generation. Those movies were for a younger generation. This movie, I felt like he was grown up my Spider-Man,
Right.
And all of that's great, but I don't. When I walked out of it and I saw the numbers and the fact that I could barely find a seat on a Saturday, at noon, a Sunday at noon, sorry, Sunday at noon, barely found a seat. It was telling to me that something's changed. I don't know if it's something that's changed in theater, because I also had a tough time seeing Hadestown the weekend before, and people have had a tough time with getting to see the Odyssey. So I don't know if it's theater going is having a bump. It's definitely up, I think 15% year over year.
This has been a very good summer so far in the aggregate for movies.
For movie theaters.
But let us remind ourselves, they're still dinosaurs. They're not the best way to see a movie if any of the assholes around you don't have the same respect for the movie that you do. And for me, it's a pain in the ass because the only two theaters that are within an hour's drive by me in the New York metropolitan area, I should point out, the two theaters near me are crap. And I don't want to spend like $50 to sit there and in a crappy theater listening to other people play with their telephones.
Well, accidentally, we were in a theater that had closed captions on.
Cool.
And I was thrilled because I'm old, and it was wonderful. I can't watch a movie without captions anymore.
Well, the aforementioned Adrian, who is my daughter, ergo the next generation. About 10 years ago, I started to have the captions on because I'm really old and my hearing, well, I'm deaf.
It's now your birthday, so you're even older today. So happy birthday.
That's true. Thank you. 10 years ago, I could hear better than I could hear today, and I couldn't hear for crap 10 years ago. So we started running, the closed captions. And after not too long, Adrian decided to turn on the closed captions on her TV set as well.
Sure.
Because it was easier.
It is. I'm a huge fan of it. My cousin is my age, but she has hearing aids, and she started putting it. We were at her house, and she put it on. I'm like, this is good for me. Anyway, it was. We're done talking about Spider-Man. I wanted when I planned on coming on. We were going to talk about this. I wanted to point out the fact that the disparity in the revenue for Spider-Man and Supergirl, you can't tell me it's not gender-based, and I find that to be reprehensible.
I agree in that people aren't willing to give it a shot.
They're both really good movies. They're both movies that I will watch again.
Let me repeat something we have talked about on the air here several times. One of the greatest experiences I've ever had seeing a superhero movie was seeing the first big ass Wonder Woman movie.
Right.
I guess it's the only one. They were made for TV movies, but the first real Wonder Woman movie. It was a great movie, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. But quite aside from that, my favorite part was watching all of the little girls that moms brought to the theater to watch Wonder Woman because they were just staring there in amazement. You could see their sense of wonder being provoked, and it was wonderful. It was a marvelous experience. It reminded me of how I felt when I was a kid in the first superhero movie or first big science fiction movie or what have you, or even King Kong. I mean, it was that type of experience.
I understand. I agree with you. I think that was there for young women for Supergirl. I think that when young women see Supergirl, they're going to have that type of experience as well. It is. I believe it's an empowering movie for them, but I could be wrong. One last thing, and we're going to bring in our guest because Sarah Gailey is in the green room, and we're going to bring her there in very shortly. But I wanted your opinion on this. So there's an article out there about Dark Horse having issues with their union. Apparently, they are changing the job description of senior editors to be a supervisory position, which removes them from union eligibility. I wanted your opinion on this, both as a advocate of collective bargaining and as a former senior group editor. Do you feel that is the role of such a position? Did you take a supervisory level position when you were at DC, kind of building that group editor position?
No, I was little Hitler. There's a funny coincidence here.
Sure.
I was a member of the Industrial Workers of the World back in 1969, and I was writing for and on staff of the Chicago Seed, which was a big-ass circulation, so-called underground newspaper. And within about a year and a half or so, I became an editor of that, which meant nothing other than, somebody has to take the blame, which is cool. That's why I'm there. And I got tossed out of the union because I was management. And This is the oldest Wobblies,
Listen, I am
union in existence.
I am currently being classified as non-bargaining unit, so I'm being kicked out of my union as well.
There you go.
But so there's still a lawsuit about it.
I resented that, and I would side with the editors involved in the Dark Horse dispute. I should point out that the union came about under the previous ownership right before they sold.
Yes.
I also wish to point out that this particular labor action invites picketing in cosplay, which I think is phenomenal. Now, I know it's not that weird today because we've got people with, frogs and stuff, but it's not that weird. I don't care. I want to see Captain Marvel and the Hulk holding up picket signs.
Sure.
That's what I want.
Or at least Hellboy.
Yeah, well, it would be sort of bitter irony to use their old superhero line.
Sure, that's right.
But I'd love it.
I wanted your opinion. So, but my question again, come back to that. So, when you were at DC, though, did you have supervisory positions? Were you?
Yes, but there were no union.
But there was no union, right?
No, we had Neil Adams, who was always advocating for a union and of some sort or a guild, And Neil was right. And Neil was not the first that went back. I mean, it went back to the very beginning because the comics industry was founded by a bunch of Jews with a lot of paper, New York Jews with paper.
Mm-hmm. They got to do something with it.
They had to do something with it. And there was a depression going on. So they made cheap comic books and started this whole industry. While still being pro-labor. But you could hardly find a more anti-labor institution than the comic book industry of the 1930s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s and today. So I find that very ironic, but nobody really put up a real effort to unionize or to form a guild because people were switching publishers so often because sometimes they wouldn't get paid, or sometimes the publisher went out of business often, or they would just cut you off of work because they weren't selling enough comic books and they had to cancel some books or what have you. There was, and still is to this day, tremendous need for collective bargaining.
Right.
I think in all fields. And by the way, that line about how great, what makes America great is collective bargaining, came from a guy who was on board of directors of mine who was about my age now. Back then, this is like 25 years ago, who thought he was very conservative, not just a Republican, he was a Republican in office. And he said, that is what makes America great. Collective bargaining is what makes America great.
I agree.
A lot of countries have that. Most who do have it in force better than we do in America, and most of those companies are better places to work, much better places to work. So, God bless the folks out in Portland, well, in Milwaukee, Oregon, and I hope and pray that the
Milwaukee, Oregon. I didn't know that.
Right? Sorry. Yeah, that's okay. They spell it wrong.
Oh yeah.
From the point of view of this Midwesterner, but nonetheless, hopefully the weather will be good enough for a protest. But I always believe that.
I hope they come to some agreement and don't cause this to be an issue. Anyway, I did want to bring it up. It's something that we talk about. These are the types of comic book news things we want to talk about. It's time to bring in our guest, though.
Well, hold on 1 second.
Right,
I'm really sorry.
I'm going to give you
Sarah. I apologize. This is also the anniversary of my first street protest activity. I was 15. That was in 1965, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. held a protest on the southwest side of Chicago in a very, very, very tough neighborhood for Black people to walk through. And that was what I decided would be my first protest. That happened in the end of July or beginning of August of 1965.
So 61 years later.
Yeah, folks, do the math. Yeah.
Congratulations on that anniversary. Congratulations again on your birthday. Now we're bringing in Sarah Gailey. Let me tell you, Sarah Gailey's writing something. I'm reading it. I am such a huge fan of theirs. I've talked to you about some of the work that they've done. I've read even more stuff, and I cannot wait to bring them in and talk about the things that they've written and the things that they're going to be writing. So everyone, please welcome Sarah Gailey to the Pop Culture SquadCast Live. Hi, Sarah.
Great theme.
Listen. I do this for everyone. I try to put together like a montage of their work, and I try to find music that I feel will work for them. And I thought that would work for you, and I'm glad you liked it. Thank you so much.
That was a banger. Are we a swearing podcast?
We are swearing podcasts. When
Yeah.
That was a really bitchin' theme. I really loved it.
So just we are an adult podcast. In the first time I interviewed Liana Kangas, I had a glass and they said, "Oh, we're drinking," and immediately. So yeah, we're ready to go. I am super excited to talk about your work. I think I want to talk first about Neighborhood Watch. Neighborhood Watch is a book. Boom Studios.
Yes.
It is currently coming out. Issue 4 comes out tomorrow, I believe. Hanning is doing the art with Rebecca Nolte on colors, and I'm not sure who's on letters. Oh, Jody Troutman letters.
Jody Troutman, yeah.
I wasn't reading this until today, and I've read all 4 issues today, and I love it. Love it. I want to talk. Can you give our listeners and viewers just a minute about what you think Neighborhood Watch is about?
Yes. First, I will say I love that framing of this question, what I think it's about, because I'm such a curmudgeon about like it's up to the readers. And
sure,
that's such a good way to prevent me from getting.
We're going to talk about some stuff. So go ahead.
Yeah. So Neighborhood Watch is the story of 2 neighboring communities who have not been good neighbors up until now. A gated community with an HOA and a communal collective who don't really talk to each other or agree with each other about how life should be lived. But these 2 communities are brought together when the vice president of the Neighborhood Watch and the kitchen steward of each respective community jointly discover a violent crime in a tunnel that connects their 2 communities that neither
previously unknown tunnel.
Yes, yeah, secret tunnel. And end up working together to try to find out what happened. It's the story of what communities are and what they can be, and it's also my version of a buddy cop story.
Sure. There's so much in this book, and from my perspective, I remember reading Eat the Rich, and just being completely consumed by it. And I had met Liana, I think, right around the time that Know Your Station was just about to come out, or something like that. So it was at LA Comic-Con. I think you had gone down to see them, and I just missed you. But it was there is a consistency to your work in comics, and we'll talk about prose a lot too. But in comics, where there's this running theme of community and responsibility. A lot of your settings are in small communities as opposed to large metropolitan area. So what attracts you to that, those themes of community and collective responsibility?
Oh gosh. I mean, what else is there?
That's a great response.
I'm quite committed to the realities of community care, which are, I think that a lot of people think that community is people you like, right? It's like your friends, which unfortunately not the case.
No.
And I'm very committed to existing in that often uncomfortable space in my day-to-day life. And that's part of my, I think, purpose for existing. And I think it's really vital to anti-fascist and anti-authoritarian efforts to be able to be connected in community. You two were discussing collective organization and collective bargaining earlier, and that's also like you can't be in a union if you can't tolerate hanging out with people who irritate you. It's just not going to work for
Oh
you.
God, yes. Oh God, yes. Including from time to time yourself.
Yes,
know,
absolutely.
from
Sometimes you're
from
going to
time
be
to
the
time.
annoying one at the meeting.
And because of that, I have to point out that I was enticed by Eat the Rich because it was called Eat the Rich. How can I not read something called Eat the Rich? What kind of surprised me was the fact that it was actually totally and completely worthy of my time and effort. I really enjoyed it. It was a setup for me, and it worked. So I thank you for that. The sense of community that we perceive or would hope to perceive in a neighborhood setting reminds me that community is more than a euphemism for neighborhood or for where you live. Community is a sense of belonging shared by people. When I was young, we lived in hippie districts and we were thrilled, back in Lincoln Park in Chicago, Lower East Side in New York. I had a great time. Absolutely stunning. It was a real solid community that we created for ourselves that went away. Because
Sure.
that's how we are. We move, we have children, we have responsibilities, or we just get tired of lying around and not doing anything and smoking weed. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but this is what
It'll
I'm told.
happen. It'll happen.
It'll happen sooner or later, right? The idea of fostering that sense of community is vital to humanity, in my opinion. There are a lot of people who don't like that. They see themselves as rugged individualists, and I have some respect for that. You can be both, and as a matter of fact, I think your duty to yourself and to your community is to be both. Is to be that outsider on the inside, bringing in different perspectives, bringing in new ideas, or looking at things from a different standpoint. So yes, this is critical stuff that you're talking about in my world.
I think that's a really fascinating way to think about the role of the self identity in community because, I also write about unhealthy communities quite a lot, and one of the hallmarks of an unhealthy community is a total lack of individuation, where I'm not a self. All I am is my role in this machine. That's not
Right.
good either. And that
No.
idea that you need to be an individual. I don't know if I concur about the necessity of being an individualist because that's like an ideological commitment to separation that isn't necessarily I don't know, I haven't chomped on this enough to have a coherent opinion about it, but it's like being an individual who can be part of a network and a community is what interdependence is all about. And I completely agree that like it's tragic when we lose those communities that we've been part of,
That's
even
right.
when that's a natural part of the evolution and life cycle of a community.
It also can lend to the growth of something evil and ugly, which is the perpetuation of the high school mentality, where everything is us versus them, and for the most sophomoric of reasons, and that also means the most petty of reasons. Building healthy community, it should be our top desire. We're all in this together, whether we want to be or not. You can be the most iconoclastic people of all iconoclasts, and you still need a hand.
Yeah, yeah, you're still gonna break your foot someday and need someone to help you
Right.
carry groceries.
That's
Um,
it.
and I love what you said about this being a high school mentality because the first thing I think of when I think of people who don't really understand what community is the fact that so many of us, deep in our little hearts, we yearn for the way community felt when we were in grade school, which is you
Sure.
get shoved into a cohort with a bunch of people Some of them are like you and some of them aren't. And you find the ones you like and you hang out with them and you mutually hate the ones that you dislike.
Right.
And
Right.
all you have to do is show up every day. You don't have to go check on someone. This was maybe like a month ago or so. My downstairs neighbor in the building that I live in is a little older, and her alarm was going off. Her wake up alarm was going off for like 4 hours. And I had to find a way to try to find out if something bad was happening. If it was that she had left and her alarm, she forgot to turn off her alarm, or if something was wrong.
Sure.
There are a lot of older people in my building. Some of them have like life alert, and some of them don't. And some of them live with people who care for them, and some of them don't. And so we have to keep an eye out, right? This is a nosiness that is intrinsic to me already, so I'm well set up. But finding a way to find that out meant activating a community that isn't, it's not like we have like a phone tree that's like, hey, Barbara's alarm is going off, someone check on Barbara. It was like, hey, do you have the phone number of Barbara's son who lives in this place? And then if we contact him, oh, he has the phone number of her neighbor who has her spare key. And trying to get all these people active in order, thankfully, happy ending, to go inside and find out Barbara went on vacation.
Nice.
And so we turned off the alarm.
That's wonderful. But the people in Open Arms, they have a phone tree like that.
Yes. In Neighborhood Watch, the Open Arms Collective is an intentional community, people who are on purpose living together. This is building community, as in like hammer and nails, building a community very on purpose, instead of these are the people in bio class who I sit by and have found something in common with. We both like Digimon, and so we're being friends. And when you build a community like that on purpose, one of the beautiful things that happens is you can intentionally say, okay, what is our emergency response? What do we do if someone is hurt? What do we do if someone is in crisis? And how do we plan that reaction in a way that doesn't intersect us with authorities we don't support and don't agree with?
Sure.
Excuse me.
No worries. And I love that part. I want to shift. I'm going to take advantage of your. You're okay.
My random cough for no reason.
We'll take advantage. Take your second. I want to switch gears just a little bit and talk about Make Me Better. Take your time, and you can listen. But I am not finished yet, and I apologize. But I am absolutely loving this book. But a lot of the things that you've talked about in terms of there are things about the collective in Make Me Better on the island that are even more out of the control of the people who live there than there are in Open Arms, which is a Neighborhood Watch. And so, but it's also about giving up yourself in a level of community, and that struggle between personal independence and making choices for the community. And there's a lot of that, and I'm sure there's a lot more that I haven't gotten to. I'm about almost halfway through, and I'm sure there's gonna be murders involved. I know it, but but it's so captivating. What was your intention with Make Me Better?
Oh gosh, intention really requires me to time travel on this one, because it was such a long process to make this book.
Really?
I rewrote it for 6 years. I rewrote it 5 full times.
I'm going to tell you, it is one of the most interesting reading experiences that I've had in a long time. For people who haven't read it yet, and I highly recommend it, there's a disjointed narrative. There is a lot of time. There's a lot of time jumps forward and back to give the reader context when they need it, even though they didn't know they needed it or wanted. It's so well crafted. So I appreciate the time and effort. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, Bob, that means the world to me, because there was a lot of time and a lot of effort. And, you reach a point, like rewriting this book kind of got me to the point of writing that I think parents who catch their kids smoking and force them to smoke the whole pack are going for. I reached a point of like, I'm sick of craft. I am tired of structure. But when I set out to write this, I approached this book with more thought than I had ever approached a book with. I approached it with
I
more
love hearing that, to
intention.
be honest with you, about this book particularly. Thank you. Go ahead.
The thing I wanted to explore was the way communities, especially very unhealthy communities specifically, but this can be true of really any community, assign their members roles, and what happens when members of an unhealthy community step outside their roles. It represents transgression. If you're in an unhealthy community, that community typically will decide who you are to it, like an organism where every cell is a narcissist. And that community will say, okay, so you are the mess. You are the mom figure. Gosh, when I do events for this book and I say that one, there's always someone in the crowd who the person next to them starts like slapping their
Oh my
arm or nudging them,
God.
because so many people have been
Sure.
assigned the role of like, you're the mom, you're the one who's always going to know what the schedule is, or you're the one who's always going to know what we're going to eat. You are the golden child who never does anything wrong. And if the golden child does something undeniably wrong, that community enters a state of crisis. I had the idea for this book during this period of time in summer of 2020, when my industry, genre fiction, cleaned house. A lot of different creative industries sort of did this. There was kind of a domino effect around that time of industries saying, okay, this person is harmful. Like so and so, we are all talking about it finally. So and so sexually harasses people at conventions or what have you.
Sure.
And my industry did that. And we had a big cleaning house and we said, okay, we're finally going to talk about so and so who everyone says don't be alone with, or so and so who everyone knows surrounds themselves with people who treat other people badly. Let's talk about it. And a couple of the people who were named and discussed for the first time were previously golden children. They were people who in this community were the good one often.
Sure.
In conversations, right? Like he's a man who will never do anything bad. And then a bunch of people said, well, actually he's done a lot of bad things.
And this happens in our industry as well.
Absolutely.
The comics industry as well.
Yes. Yeah. Comics had its own reckoning during that same time.
Mm-hmm.
During those conversations, I was part of a lot of like Slack channels and Discords and group chats and stuff. And I could see people reorienting their understanding of themselves based on this information. And I thought, I want to write about this. I want to write about the way communities change when people transgress outside of their assigned role. Mm-hmm. And I started doing research into community dynamics and into dynamics of manipulation within communities, and learned so much. Writing this book completely changed me as a person and completely changed my approach to community. And so by the time I was writing the last draft, my goal was, my goal was still to explore this dynamic, but it was a little more to invite my readers to ask themselves the questions I'd been forced to ask when I was writing it and when I was doing my research, which were not easy questions, and people have really come along for the ride.
They're not.
Sometimes we forget that because we're so busy telling the story. Every story that you tell can have an impact upon the reader. I'm not going to say it should, because lighten up every once in a while, just goof off. But most do have some sort of impact on the reader. And everything that everybody does in every community has an impact on each other. So when that's why I dislike isolationism for a couple of reasons. I recognize people have the right to be left alone if that's what they want. Absolutely. But stay cognizant of the fact that there's a reason why we call this society. We're all in this together. That doesn't mean that we're all going to agree on everything, sometimes even on anything. And that's what makes us better. Listen to people for their challenges, to you, to what you perceive as your community, and see how the community responds.
Absolutely. And, Make Me Better is about a cult. And one of the hallmarks of that type of community, of a high control or authoritarian group, is absolute opposition to what you just said.
Mhm.
I get asked, after publishing this book, I get asked a lot by people, like, how do I make sure my community's not that? And first of all, I give my very unfun, like, this is complex answer. But also, that's like the litmus test, is how does your community react to the idea of you hanging out with someone who thinks the opposite of what your community thinks?
Yeah.
Earlier on tonight's show, I mentioned the 1968 Dr. King rally that I was at. That was in a neighborhood that was very working class, white, segregated, highly segregated neighborhood. Segregated not by law, although redlining isn't law, it's close to that. And they were pissed that we were there. And they were particularly pissed at people like me because we were outside agitators, which I thought, I actually became proud of that term.
Sure.
Yes, I am. Thank you. Today you go back to that same neighborhood and it's completely different. It's not perfect. Arguably, it's not necessarily better. It's bad in other ways. And that's okay because that's growth. And every time you grow and do something new, you're taking a risk. And sometimes those risks don't pay off. And you got to understand that from the beginning. Shit, we tried. Sometimes that's a valid response.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about something in your craft that has stuck out to me, and I find this to be amazing that it has stuck out in the way. So I've read your prose and I've read comics that you've written by different your words interpreted by different artists, and I find this thing that I see in everything. It really struck me and make me better where I saw your script words, but I realized that it comes through in other ways. There are small moments that you capture, the feelings that we have inside, and there's a way that you put those emotions and thoughts that happen in microseconds into words, and it feels so perfect. And how do you get to that? Other authors, maybe disregard them as understood or space consuming, but you nail it with such an economical process and a pace that, like, it's that thing you describe, that feeling that someone has had in a moment, and then they talk. And I thank you for that, because I absolutely love that, because it touches me. I feel it. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. I know that feeling. I know that fear just before you do this thing that you're going to have to do, but you can't even recognize it but you put it to words. Is that something intentional for you?
Oh, absolutely. And this means so much to me that touches you, that, like, that's really nourishing artistically to hear. And also just I mean, as we've been talking about the way that necessarily in community you impact each other, like, that kind of impact means so much to me to have. Yeah, I mean, it's very intentional. I really live in emotional reality as much as possible. Most of the growing that I've done as an adult person has been the result of learning to honestly recognize, experience, and identify my feelings. Um, I many years ago had a therapist who sat me down and said, "Okay, so what we're going to do is have you just start identifying experiences you have as pleasant or unpleasant." And I was like, "What is this, kindergarten?" Like by then I had been in therapy for a long time with another person, and I was like, "Easy. That's, I mean, what is this? I'm going to breeze through this. Time to get an easy A." And like 5 minutes later, I was sobbing uncontrollably because it was so hard to just honestly acknowledge that something, it was like an interpersonal interaction I'd had. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't like, my whole family got slaughtered by an octopus. It was like someone said something to me, I didn't like it. And acknowledging that it was an unpleasant experience felt like it was going to kill me.
Sure.
And that was the beginning of such a long road to walk down of being able to be just honest with myself about what I feel and think. So many of us, I think, live lives that require us to veer away from forbidden thoughts and emotions because they're dangerous, because we don't know the difference between thought and action or feeling and action, because we're afraid to live in the complexity of everything having good parts and bad parts to it, including things we really love and things we really hate. Um, so writing about emotions honestly and candidly is really important to me. It's something I'm very interested in. And those little emotions that
Right.
we feel in a millisecond before we act, I think can be the most important ones, because they're the ones that are hardest to identify, and not being able to identify them makes it really hard to change behaviors that they influence.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that a lot with comic art and comic storytelling, I think that's easier. And I think I don't want to put that characterization. I think that it's more telling when it's in prose when you do that, because I think it translates in a glance. That's visual to someone, where an artist can put something in a facial perspective, and you get those kind of things in that small panel. But when you put all of those emotional concepts in a paragraph, and the reader consumes that, I think it's a little bit more um, uh, striking, and that's what I love about it. And as I've been reading Make Me Better, I like stop and tell my wife, I'm like, I love the way she does this, or those things. And I want to stop. I'm going to stop praising you for a second. We have a question from that, and I think it's a great question. You've written comics and prose, and you continue to do both. Is it hard? How do you change your writing brain between, where you're giving someone else, instructions or an idea about what to draw, versus where it's all on you in terms of what you're putting on the page?
It's so different that it almost doesn't feel like switching. That's like, it's like, what, how do you switch between
Hmm.
like driving a car and swimming?
Okay,
It's like they're
that's a
totally
great
different.
that's a great analogy.
Because writing a novel is, it's just me in this chair that you're looking at right now. This is where I live like half my life. Um, it's just me, and I'm talking to the reader. I'm having a conversation with the story that the reader, I know, is going to eavesdrop on. And when I'm writing comics, I'm writing basically a letter to the team. I'm not just writing to the artist, right? I'm writing to the artist, the colors, the letters, the editor or editors, um, and sometimes even to production. Sometimes even to like, hey, here's like a design thing that I hope we can do. Um, and so when I'm writing comics, I'm like having a one-sided conversation. I'm like writing a super long email, and the super long email has all of the stuff in it that I want someone to know if they're going to make a piece of art about what I've written. Where novels are the direct storytelling. So it feels so different to me that it doesn't quite feel like switching in terms of form. That said, I used to back in my youth of, what is it now? It's like 10 years ago. I was writing, I was on deadline for comics and prose work at the same time, which I now perpetually am on deadline for both those things. And I would write um, comics in the morning and prose in the afternoon and evening. And I would do that every day. I can't do that shit now at all.
Why did you do it then, and why can't you do it now?
I could do it then because I wasn't burnt out yet.
Okay.
It was like
absolutely fair. Absolutely fair.
It was like when you watch like this is a terrible example, but it was like when you watch a young Fred Astaire and he can do anything and he's doing it all for the thrill of it because he's like, look at me go.
Right.
And that's how it felt. It also probably I was writing kind of simpler material. I did that a lot when I was writing Steven Universe, which was so fun. It was so much fun, but it was writing for children. It's writing for kids. I'm not forcing myself to live alongside like a violent cop for that project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or sentient space station.
Yeah. But I can't do it now. I can't at all. I have to, and the reason is not because of switching between form, it's because of switching between stories.
Okay.
That's the problem I have now. I'm working
do
right
you
now.
Do you day by day do it, or is it longer chunks of time?
It's day by day. It's often week by week. Okay. I just finished writing an IP comic that I'm very excited about, but it was very intense. It was the most intense comics writing I've done ever. And tomorrow I have to go into prose work, and I needed to take today to like put space between the stories. Otherwise, the prose that I'm working on would start turning into that IP, and then I would get the pantsuit off me.
When you're doing comics, when you're writing comics in particular, you are creating the environment that is one of your themes. You are creating a community. Now, I realize the community is already there, but every dynamic is different. Every writer, artist, editor, colorist, letterer, team up is unique. And it changes, it grows, it deteriorates over time. But that's community. And as a writer, it often starts with you, with the writer. So I think that's kind of cool, is that in that you can switch from one writing prose to writing comics, which is more of a tag team thing. And I respect that. And I respect that because most comic book writers I know have, at least if they've been around for a while, have written prose. And some of them have done a very good job of it, but they're comic book writers. They want to write comics. They're going to be mostly writing comics. Whereas people who come into comics from other media often don't have the knack for comics. They can't think visually enough because they're so used to thinking, well, visually in a different manner, because I'm also talking about movie directors. They think visually, but they think visually totally differently. So in a sense, your career is wonderfully ironic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think there's a weakness that I see sometimes in people who come into writing comics from other industries, and it's a weakness um, that lies in the strength of their ego as a creative.
Mm.
As a comics writer, I am kicking the first domino over, and the team that I'm part of then like goes to outer space with what I've written, right? I'm writing a panel that says this panel should look this way, and then they take it from there. But I see sometimes people coming from other industries, especially as you said, Mike, screenwriting and prose writing, who are so obsessed with their own words that their scripts are like 90% flavor text. It's like,
Right.
here's every beautiful thought that I have about this script. And whenever I see those, I'm like, listen, I love this from you, but you wanted this to be a short story. You're not writing with consideration to the fact that your artist has limited time to dig through your word problem that you've written to find the relevant information about, like, okay, but what am I supposed to draw? That's I think that's like a huge part of my goal in respecting my artist is to be efficient with their time.
There is a phrase that in my book is really a law for communication in general and for writing in particular, and that is "kill your darlings" from Agatha Christie. And yet, way too many writers, not so much in comics, because of that community, because of that group effort, but all too many writers are so possessive of their prose that they can't kill their darlings when needed. And it is often needed. I wrote a column for Pop Culture Squad's website this Monday, as I do most Mondays, and the difference between my first draft and my last draft is some great writing that isn't there anymore.
It's
And
tragic.
yeah, but it shouldn't have been there. It wasn't needed, and if it's not needed, it gets in the way.
You know,
Just that simple.
the thing that I find most helpful for thinking about that, because I'm not better than other writers, right? I write a really good sentence and I go, ooh, that's staying in until the final draft, and then my editor will be like, this needs to go, and I'm like, no. This is bear with me on this. Weird Al Yankovic,
Okay.
in my opinion, one of the greatest artists of all time. Period.
Fair.
I'll agree.
Absolute virtuoso talent, and incredibly skilled, did an interview talking about raising a child that put me, oh, I was in tears. I was in floods about what it's like. The interviewer was saying, what's your favorite age that your child has ever been? And he said, all of them, because whenever my child is a new age, like kids enter like a distinct period.
Mhm.
Sure.
It's amazing. They're an amazing person, no matter which period they're in. And there's grief that comes with realizing that the person I really liked is gone, right? That 4-year-old who I thought was so cool and fun and interesting isn't here anymore. But now there's this really cool, interesting 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old. And I think that's something that more creatives need to internalize, that like, yeah, the draft that I first wrote that I thought was so banging, and I was like, I'm a genius, and I was walking around my house like I'm 10 feet tall. That draft was very good, and I loved it, and that love was real. But the draft that it's going to become will also be what it's supposed to be, and I can love that draft too. And that transformation and the grief that comes with letting go of the prior version of something doesn't have to negate the necessity of change. Yeah, Weird Al Yankovic's parenting advice, but for writers.
Listen, I mean, I believe it.
I have a Weird Al story. I'm going to interject here for
That's
Bob
fine.
because he
We'll
likes
have-
these
we'll have a
wacky
Weird Al
stories. If
I have something to
he's-
say after, but we'll have a Weird Al story.
Okay. If he's never heard it before, and I don't think you've heard this one.
I don't know, probably. We'll see.
Around 1990, I was having lunch with Weird Al. Whereas I was in my capacity as DC Comics Director of Editorial Development, which meant I picked up the check. In reality, I was there as a fanboy. And we're talking, and we're having a great time. We're at a deli called Pastrami and Things. And I walked away at the end of this. It's a great deli. At the end of this lunch, thinking, shit, not once did Weird Al order a plate of things. He missed that one. Well, he wasn't working.
Yeah, you know, he wasn't on, you know, he was somebody else was paying for it.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to kind of I just need to kind of talk about the irony of something you said earlier, Sarah, in that community, right? That grades, you said earlier that, you know, community is not necessarily the, you know, everybody wants it to be that grade school. They compare it to that. The irony is that probably one of the first friends I made, and one of my oldest friends, is watching the show right now, and we've been friends since we were like 8, and I think that's hilarious because it doesn't always happen. But he's also the person who is drawn on me. So like he's my tattoo artist and one of my best friends, but all the ink on me is drawn by him. And I just think that's hilarious because there is that concept of that you have these there it can work. You can have those people that are close to you, but recognizing how the world changes is what makes us grow. You know, you can hold on to things and keep things, and that relationship has evolved over the past 50 years. But one of the things I want to talk about next is what is coming next from you. And I think one of the big things is this Hellraiser. And I need you to tell me as much as you possibly can about your involvement with Hellraiser. I know that this is, I think, a series of 5 one-shots. Yes. Is that all you can say about that?
Oh boy.
All right.
I have a personal life rule that in my personal life I do not have secrets. I have like private stuff. I have like a private life, and I don't disclose things about my private life to people. But one of my rules for myself is no secrets that, like, if people found them out, I would feel like my life is falling apart. And the reason for that is that I have really bad memory issues, and so I never remember what I am or am not supposed to say. Okay. All right, here's what I can tell you. My one shot is part of a series of 5 one-shots by really stellar creators. Amazing creators, absolutely. Yeah. And this comes out in September. Yes, yeah.
All 5? All 5?
No, I think it's
one a month.
One a week.
That's cool.
In the month of September. So that is going to be Hellraiser Resurrections month. We are going for it, baby. We've got, let's see, me, Mike Costa, Zach Thompson, Teeny Howard, and the Butterball issue, which is written by Nero Villagaios O'Reilly. I'm the middle name. I don't know if it's a middle name or a like 2-part surname, but I don't perfectly remember what that one is. Okay, that one is Health Council. I don't need to.
It's okay. Go ahead. Keep going. I'll grab the name. Don't worry about it.
Memory issues. All 5 of the issues are I can't speak about mine. The other 4 issues are really amazing. I'm in great company. We've got really phenomenal artists on board for every issue. I have not kept track of who each artist is who's working with each writer, so I'm not going to try and pull those out. But they, other than Mike Costa's issue, each one follows one of the original 4 Cenobites from the Hellraiser films. That is something that is important to know about an IP like this, which is spread across books, films, and comics. The IP rights that we are working with are the film-connected rights. So we aren't writing comics that are extensions of Clive Barker's prose work in the Hellraiser universe, but they are connected to the first 2 films in the Hellraiser film universe. The issues that follow these 4 Cenobites are sort of aiming to both introduce new Hellraiser fans to the Cenobites, because there's a lot of people who are going to be entering this world who don't know exactly who they're dealing with. Another goal is to give diehard fans a little bit more connection with these characters who they love. And then finally, we are working on reintroducing these characters, establishing their current dynamic in preparation for some future work. So that is, I think, what I can tell you about these series at large. We're working with editor Ari Yarwood on these, and Ari is absolutely incredible, managing this massive team of creatives. And, you know, we all had to start writing at the same time, but all our stories are interconnected. And when I talked to Ari at the very start of this project, and we were looking at, you know, I was saying, okay, I want to do this. Like, I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to try and negotiate as if I'm not going to say yes. But what does this look like? How are all these people going to stay connected and make sure that their stories are connected across these 5 one-shots in ways that don't like contradict each other? And Ari just had a hand on the tiller the whole time, steering us really, really patiently and intelligently. I'm sure it was stressful behind the scenes, but I never felt that like humidity didn't touch me while I was working. And my issue follows Pinhead, who is the Cenobite on the cover that you were just showing, and follows his efforts to return to his position. We meet him in a fallen state at the beginning of the issue, and it's about how he tries to find his way back to the power that he once held.
So it's a story about redemption.
That's a strong way to put it. I don't know that I'm aiming at redemption. We're not going to end up with Pinhead in the Avengers, you know. I shouldn't say that. Marvel, call me. We'll do a crossover.
You know, I think it's funny that we now have to distinguish between we're adapting the movie universe, not the book universe, not the and there's no reluctance, or at least there's very little. People get that. That's a relatively recent thing. And there are still a lot of fans in any medium who will resent that you're not using their preferred medium.
Oh yeah. And I've run into that in other IP I've written, even just characters who are different in different like iterations of that character, and then I get hired to write on an IP, and the brief I'm given is, we want you to use this version of the character, and then I get fans who are like, why didn't you use that other version? And I'm like, well, that other version didn't write my checks.
Yes, that's the most honest and direct response you can make, because it's an argument. It's an argument killer, no matter how personal that rejected version is to that reader, they'll get the check part.
Yes. And you know what? You know who doesn't care about what version of that character I wrote? Pacific Gas and Electric. So I'm going to do what the editor asks for. Oh,
Oh,
Bob, I'm not
we
getting
can't
any
hear you,
sound
Bob.
off.
You're.
It's just me and you now, Mike.
I was coughing. Sorry. And I
Oh.
had my cough
Can't
button on.
relate.
That's
Okay.
fine. So you mentioned book universes. So how about this book universe? This is Sarah Gailey's Downright Scoundrels Needed, the second book to Upright Women Wanted. Second of 3. So this book comes out in spring of 2027. What is this like for you, continuing something that you've written in prose in another volume and more to come? So how has this been like for you?
Oh, it's been so much fun. I will say, I hopefully there's no metadata out there promising a third book. I don't have plans
There
in the works
is.
right now.
It says
There is?
book. It says book 2 of 3.
Oh, I need to have a conversation with my editor.
I did see that.
Who's
Okay,
where on Amazon or something? Where
It
did you
might
see
be.
that?
I'll find it. Go ahead, talk.
Yeah, we can figure that out later. So Upright Women Wanted is a book that I wrote many, many, many years ago now. That is about what it's like to get involved in an established movement. It's a book that follows a young woman who joins what she discovers to be a resistance movement. And I wrote it during a time when a lot of people I knew, myself included, were showing up to activist spaces going, okay, it's time for the work to begin. And there's other activists in there who've been doing that work for like decades. And, you know, you feel kind of like a little clown when you figure out that you're just showing up with kind of your tricycle wheels still on to a bike rally. And so I wrote that book to kind of go, you know, yeah, this is what it's like. Sometimes you feel demoralized. Sometimes you learn hard lessons. Sometimes you feel stupid or useless, but you'll find your way. And what matters is to stay in the fight, because we always need new blood, right? We need fresh oxygen in the fish tank. I never intended to write another book in that universe. And then I don't know if you heard about this, but back in 2024, there was a presidential election in the United States of America. And it didn't go so hot. It ended up pretty bad. And I went, okay, well, first of all, it's clear that this fight is long-term and we need people to stay in it. And second of all, there needs to be a story, or not there needs to be, I need to tell a story about what it's like to survive. And what it's like to survive, whether or not you're part of a resistance movement, you're part of an activist movement, you are going to be intersecting with those movements now. Downright Scoundrels Needed is not a direct sequel. It's not a continuation of the exact same story. It's in the same universe and connected to the original story. And it's about a group of thieves who aren't part of a movement and don't want to be part of a movement, who want to get the bag and be left alone, and who find that their work brings them into contact with that movement they're not sure they want to be part of. It also includes a lot of explicit instructions on how to do particular important things, like make an improvised fuse or make an improvised tourniquet. Information that I think people not only need to have, but need to have their appetites whetted to pursue. For the last, lots of years, 10, 12 years now.
It's about 10 years.
I've been trying to mobilize everyone who will listen to me to get first aid and first responder training, to get legal observer training, to seek out education in how to improvise the things that they need to keep people safe who they will come into contact with over the course of a publicly lived life in the United States. And
It's interesting you say that, but I've witnessed that, because that is another underlying hidden theme to your work. I see it. It's there. There are people who you run into and like, oh, we've done this. We're a medic, or we know, and there are things that you write for readers to think about. And I see that and I appreciate that.
The three most educational, most life-changing learning experiences I put myself in were, in no particular order, improv. Improv training really helps in life. Crisis intervention, for obvious reasons, and I help build crisis intervention agencies. And the third is first aid. I worked to keep Head Start alive for years and years, and very happy about that work. And yet I would hang out at Head Start centers where there are a lot of little babies and 3-year-olds and stuff. And you better know first aid if you're in a situation like that. Or quite frankly, if you're just walking down the street, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But the type of self-reliance that I have built, because I had none when I was a little kid, I had none, came from those three sources. I can figure stuff out, I can help people out, and maybe I can help save a life.
Yeah. I cannot overemphasize to people how vital first aid training is. I trained as an EMT in my early 20s, and in my mid 20s, I walked into a diner and heard someone yell the phrase that they teach you in EMT school to listen for on the street, which is somebody call 911, because that's what people yell when they see someone hurt. It's not help. It's somebody call the people who can help. And I walked into that diner. There was an elderly man who had clearly toppled backward off his bar stool, and he was on the ground and blood was pooling behind his head. And I was able to perform CPR and put pressure on the wound until paramedics got there. And as they did, they used an AED to interrupt the heart rhythm that was happening. And as they were leaving, one of the paramedics grabbed me and said, "You just saved this guy's life." And I got free fries that day. So if you're wondering if you get first aid training, you will get a plate of French fries the size of your torso. And all you have to do is save someone's life, which is like, you can do that. They teach you how. They teach you how to do it.
Back in the beginning of the AIDS horrors, just before we really started to understand what was going on, or we began to understand what was going on, I was witness to a traffic accident downtown Chicago, Michigan Avenue, very swanky type of area, and this woman got out of her car after being T-boned, and she was bleeding all over the place, and I was able to help stop the bleeding. And it's not that I felt really good, because in the moment you don't feel good. You feel like there's an issue you have to deal with. But afterwards, the first thing the EMS person said to me was, "Well, weren't you worried about the blood?" And I said, "No," and then I got it. Would I do that again today? Well, yeah, probably. You know why? Because I got a box of rubber gloves in my car, and I've had it there, in every car for 40 years. That's why.
Yeah. Well, and also, people underestimate how ingrained the instinct to help is.
Yes.
Like, if you hurt yourself in front of a 2-year-old, they will try to come to you to do something. They don't know what to do. Their hands are pizza rolls. Like, they have no skills. They will come to you to try and be like, I want to help. And as frightening as it is, you're right, you don't feel good about it in the moment. You feel freaked out, and like, even if you have the skills, and I had the skills really ingrained at that time, so it wasn't like, oh no, what do I do? But it was like, surely I can't do it. Surely none of this is doing anything, but I'm doing it anyway. And it's like, even if you were thinking about the blood on some level, I don't know that it would be able to override that feeling of this person
I agree.
needs help. Yeah.
I agree. What are you going to do? You're here now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I should point out that when I get hurt, once in a while, one of my cats will come over, and that's good because I'm thinking you're not really here to help me. No, they're just checking out the situation, and if they remember in a few minutes, maybe they can work something out. But they're not going to remember. But it is entertaining, and it took my mind off of the trauma, so I'm fine.
You should avoid getting hurt. So let's start with that.
Yeah.
Don't
You've
get hurt.
been talking to my daughter.
Well, besides those two things, you also have an upcoming issue of a short in Flash Gordon quarterly. And who's the artist on that?
Who is the artist on that one?
Oh,
The problem that I have is that I'm concurrently working on
don't worry about it.
10 different comics, and I'm terrified of mixing up which artist is on which
That's
thing.
okay. We'll figure it out. I have it. Okay, hang on. I got it.
Okay.
It is it's Jan Bazul Dua. I'm sorry. I am totally ripping that apart.
Spell it.
No. So what's that like, playing in a character like that? With that.
Man. I mean, Flash Gordon was such a trip to work on. When I was contacted by that editor, I was like, why me for Flash Gordon? What makes me a good fit for this? And then I did a ton of reading. It's one of my favorite parts of my job, is that I'll be like, I have to do research. And then I sit in my comfy chair with like 20 snacks and I read comics for 6 hours.
Right.
And I realized that the thing that made me a good fit for Flash Gordon is that Flash Gordon can kind of be and do anything.
Sure.
And Flash Gordon does these flash fiction issues that are short and they're outside of canon. They're like, what if Flash Gordon in the Wild West and he's the sheriff? Or what if Flash Gordon was a private investigator? And they're really fun. They're like really, really fun. I got to write a full issue that it was like, do whatever you want. And it was kind of, there was a question of if it was going to be in canon or if it was going to be the Flash fiction. And when I started thinking about it, I was thinking about the Flash fiction kind of universe within Flash Gordon. And I pitched a story about his childhood. And then we decided to pivot to adult Flash. And I decided to write a very classic adventure story setup, which is, you've been kidnapped by guys and they've put you in a gladiatorial arena to fight to the death. Like, really classic setup, very like out of pulp and classic science fiction and adventure. And I wrote the pitch for it. And I'm not going to tell you what that pitch was because my editor said, this is great, but this specific detail we actually have coming up in a different Flash Gordon canon event. So you have to change that detail. And I said, okay, no problem. I will do this as aliens instead of the thing I was going to do. And I had to figure out what aliens I wanted to design, which is really fun. It's really, really fun because,
Sure.
again, you can do anything. And I designed these aliens that I call the horseshoe crabs. And it's on the cover. If you can pull up
I'll
the
get
cover,
it. I'll get it.
it is a horse top half, crab bottom half. And I came up with this, and I went to my editor, and I was like, please let me do this because it's
great.
And here is Yannick Paquette's version of your horse crab.
I
Yes.
have not seen that. That is wonderful.
And I love
I'm
Yannick.
a big Flash Gordon fan. I grew up with the serials on television. I met Buster Crabbe when I was young. I just love the character. Alex Raymond, my God. Al Williamson, geez, come on. That's a beautiful cover. I would buy that off the stands.
Well,
I didn't know until it was announced, until they announced this issue. I didn't know that
you hadn't seen the cover.
Yeah. And I mean, just what a piece of art. Like,
Yannick is amazing, though.
Yeah.
Just wait. They're gonna license that. King Features will license that out to a fast food chain. Just wait.
Great. Yeah, I want to see the Long John Silver horseshoe crab special. I'm ready. I'm waiting. And writing that issue was such a blast because I came up with that type of alien, and then I said, what kind of guy would have that kind of alien in his fight to the death arena? And I came up with a character named Admiral Howdy, who is a pirate cowboy. And
I like him.
He's the mad king of his own little fiefdom. And I got to write a whole community of pirate cowboy hybrids who who say things like, ahoy buckaroos, and what was one? Yeehaw matey. I cannot remember another time I've had so much fun.
That's wonderful.
That's great. That's great. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to a lot of things, but I'm looking forward to that
one. Sarah, we're running out of time, and I apologize, but it has been everything I hoped it would be. We are going to have you back on. I hope you would love to. I hope you would enjoy coming back on, because we would.
That.
It is one of the things that we've spent time talking about for people who want to go back and watch. If you come in late, we talked about craft and the writing style and muscles and techniques and procedures that you use to tell a story. And ultimately, you're telling stories to your community, a much larger world, that you think we need to hear, or that you need to tell, or some combination of both. And I thank you for it. I appreciate it, and I think we're better for it. So that there's that. Is there anything that I know you're not huge at being at events and stuff, but are there any upcoming events that you are at? Do you want to publicize while we have you here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually, I can look at my big calendar right now and make sure I don't miss anything. So I'm going to be, if you're in Southern California, if you're in San Diego, I'm going to be at the KPBS festival. And that's going to be on August 22nd. And then I will be at Rose City Comic Con in September, which I'm so looking forward to. I'm really excited. I will be at CanCon in October. And then, next year, friend me all over the place, I'm sure.
That's fantastic.
Sarah, this has been wonderful. I really have enjoyed this conversation. You have offered a unique perspective to the wannabes who may be viewing this or listening to this. Your technique and your circumstances are different. Everybody's are. but you articulated those differences quite effectively, and I think you've opened the world up to some new experiences because of that. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you both so much. This has been such a pleasure. What a delightful conversation. I feel absolutely enriched, and
Good.
I really look forward to talking to you two more. Thank you.
Thank you
All
so much
right.
for being here, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. Oh, that was fun.
It was. Happy birthday,
That
Mike.
was fun. Thank you very much. Next Tuesday,
No show.
no show next Tuesday. And why is that, sir?
Well, so as I said, for people who care about us or what we're doing, uh, Sherry and I will be at Terrificon this weekend. So if you're in the northeast New England area and you can get to Uncasville, Connecticut, I love the name of that town, at the Mohegan Sun, that is where Terrificon is, and that's where I'll be working with Hero Initiative organization.
Keep your eye on the road for uncuses. You do not want to hit one.
Yeah, you don't want to hit them. And then I'm on the way back. I'm gonna pick you up, and we're going to Chicago. So
Yeah.
We're gonna the SquadCast will hit the road. So we're not gonna have a live show. We might, maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll pop live on our YouTube here and there. But the following week we will be back in our respective studio homes, and we are going to have a great show on the 18th. Oliver Mertz is going to be back on the show. Now, we had Oliver Mertz on a year or two ago, and he was in the middle of a Kickstarter for a Ghost Arm of Angry Ghosts, and that was successful. And subsequently, Oni decided that they wanted, instead of him to kickstart all the issues, to have them just send the whole thing out as a graphic novel, and that is coming out next month. And so Oliver's going to be back on, and we're going to talk about the whole thing. I have a copy of the completed graphic novel, which is like over 200 pages, I think, or close to it. It's really big. And we're also going to have Mark Fishman on the show. On the 18th, he's gonna open with us. We're going to talk about what they've got going on for the Unshavens, and they're going to be at DragonCon. And beyond that, we have several guests booked, and you're going to have to wait and find out when and where they will be.
Might we not be sharing a table with Mark and the Unshavens next week?
We might. So, like I said, stay tuned to our to our YouTube channel. If you haven't yet, please just subscribe to it, and then you'll find out when we go live. We may put some videos up there of our road trip. Again, if you please follow, subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Go to popculturesquad.com and you can subscribe there as well, log in and get notifications of all of our articles on all of our socials. They go there. Your column is out yesterday, which you had mentioned. We're talking about the favorite Nepo heroine, whatever he is, and
the Nepo junkie.
Nepo junkie, yes. And then there's a new number ones out this week. There's a lot of new number ones out this week. We have a lot of really great things. There is an Ian Boothby Pia Guerra graphic novel that comes out this week, and how would you not want to read that? So many good stuff. We are going to be back in 2 weeks. You'll hear from us between then and then. Mike, this has been a great night. Very happy to have had Sarah on. As I said, they are just fantastic writer, and super happy.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you for being here. Bob really should use his tagline to end the show.
Yeah, read more comics.
That's it.
They're good for you.
They're good for you.
And I will be doing that this weekend. So will everyone please make sure you read comics, because they'll move your soul. We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much.
Thank you, folks. Good night.
This has been a production of the Pop Culture Squad Network. PopCultureSquad.com. How do you nerd?